Welcome. My name is Dean Case, and my partner Ian Lehn here. We're going to talk a little bit about some lessons learned of connecting the dots for student groups and industry. And a lot of that's what we've learned from our experience with the SEMA Garage. We have a little bit, I think we've got some standing in this. I've worked for Ford Racing, Mazda Speed, Nismo. I had a short one weekend with Ferrari before the COVID killed that contract. And Ian's similar background in motorsports, and we've both been volunteers with our organization. Ian was recognized as the SEMA Person of the Year last year for what he does with ETTN and stuff. And we met 3 years ago and have collaborated since for hopefully benefiting both students and industry. But we have to put the disclaimer slides up here, so anything we say does not reflect our employers, SEMA or SAE. I like the fact that the PRI one, this is their disclaimer, here's the SAE one. So SAE is a little more efficient on disclaimers, but so anything you dislike, you can blame on us personally. Anything you agree with, you can give credit to PRI, SEMA, and SAE. But how many of you are not familiar with what SAE does? Anybody? I got a couple. SAE is a standards organization. I used to joke that we're the oil can people. You pick up an oil can that says SAE 20W50. We don't make oil. SAE sets the standards where it doesn't matter what brand you buy, the viscosity will be consistent. SAE grade bolts, things that are non-competitive. You don't want to have to go out and make sure it's a Chevrolet bolt, not a Toyota bolt for your car. So certain things should be non-competitive. But many years ago, SAE discovered, now 50 years ago, they discovered there was a need for showcasing engineering talent in front of companies who can hire them. And that was the original SAE Baja. And for any of you formula guys, don't be a formula snob. Baja predates you. If there was no SAE Baja, there'd be no formula. So this goes way back, and ultimately industry has benefited from this because, as I mentioned in the slide, I don't care what your company is, you don't have the bandwidth to go visit the 200 plus schools in this country where there's amazing talent. So if you can go to one competition, it's very effective, and it also means the smaller schools who are maybe out of the mainstream areas get to shine just as much as a big name school. So we do call it the rolling resume. This is an article I wrote for Auto Week a couple of years back. And the SAE events have never been meant to be public. We are not looking for public attention. It's all for the industry. And particularly it was for the OEs, but a few years ago, thanks to Ian's effort and some others, that the SEMA companies and PRI companies really can benefit even more because the skills you learn building a Formula Baja car are really applicable to smaller companies where you're not a design engineer who throws it over the wall, the testing engineer who throws it over the wall to the manufacturing. At a smaller company, you're doing all of those events. So it really is a showcase. I like to point this one out. Dan Gurney knew where to find talent. This was back in 1998. And we discovered that most of his engineering crew came from Formula SAE or Baja SAE. And several of these people have gone on to amazing careers even since. Brandon Thomas is, I think, the third one in the photo. He's now the Vice President of Technology for NASCAR R&D. So if you go to any IndyCar, NASCAR, IMSA paddock, virtually every engineer under the age of about 45, I think, has Formula or Baja on their resume. And we've got some stars in the audience, Kevin Bohm, Mike O'Neill, Gracie Hackenberg. So we've got some great alums here, maybe some others. How many in the audience are in industry now? Okay. I was hoping for more industry to show up here. And the rest, everyone else is a student. Do we have everyone on a collegiate program, or is there any high school students in the audience? One. Okay, good. I mean, here again, we're trying to cover all aspects. But where we really kicked this off was a couple of years back, and I'm not sure how Ian and I got introduced to each other, but he was a leader with the Emerging Technology and Trends Network within SEMA. And the plan was to have a showcase for the cars at the SEMA Garage. And the original thought on this is that students would sometimes build a car, travel 1,000 or 2,000 miles to get to competition, and then fail tech inspection. And it wasn't usually their fault. It was like they didn't get enough guidance and feedback from industry in their area. So we thought we would do that before the competitions. But what immediately happened was this thing that we weren't really expecting is a bunch of the SEMA companies said, well, can we come and recruit? Absolutely. And so it turned out that fewer schools actually had their car ready for tech inspection at our event but companies were showing up in large numbers to recruit. And what we're hoping to do, so we've done this now 3 years at the SEMA Garage in Diamond Bar. The Detroit section has copied us, we're happy to say, and they've done it at the SEMA Garage in Detroit. And our thought here with PRI, because Jim Lau invited us to give this presentation, is find some other hubs, particularly Indianapolis, Charlotte, Atlanta, hopefully Florida, and some other ones where there's enough of a concentration of multiple schools and multiple companies who are looking to hire, or tracks who can benefit. And we got some other examples. So here's, I've got some flyers down here. If you're, Saturday, February 22nd, we'll be doing our second annual event at the SEMA Garage in Detroit. And on March 9th, we'll be doing our fourth annual one in Diamond Bar. So anyone here from Southern California? Yes, hope to see you at Diamond Bar. Who is from, anyone from Detroit? Okay, sign up and go to that one. The SEMA Garage in Detroit, and Ian can talk more about that. I believe it's even more impressive than the one in Diamond Bar, larger facility. But, so my background, I was working with a lot of young drivers. I spent 11 years with Mazda Motorsports when the Mazda Road to Indy existed. And I would deal with these young teenage race drivers. And I jokingly say that the worst Little League dad or soccer mom is nothing compared to a go-kart parent. They've been dumping so much money in their kid's career, and the kid has no concept of the business of the sport. And so I found some similarities between aspiring race drivers and aspiring race engineers. A lot of talent, but a lack of understanding of the business side. And we would explain to them that we're not a pure sport. Theoretically, I could go out and buy the same golf clubs as Tiger Woods. I can't play like him, but I could buy the same equipment. In racing, you have to explain to people who don't follow our sport that every time you move up a level, sell what you own, buy something that's twice as expensive to go 4% faster. That makes no sense to anybody. So we are the Venn diagram of sport, technology, and commerce. Got to have a great driver, got to have a great car with great engineers, but if you don't have someone who's writing the check, nothing happens. And I love, the legendary sports car racer John Morton explained to me one time about in endurance racing, you need an A driver, a B driver, and a C driver. The A driver is that 18-year-old who can do that lap that's faster than the simulation said you could. The B driver is that same driver 10 or 20 years later. The Hurley Haywood, you can put it in the car at midnight in the pouring rain, 5 laps down, who'll do a triple stint and get you back to the lead lap. But you have to have a C driver. C is for check or cash to pay for the A and the B driver. And so that's where, and I give credit, that's a John Morton quote. Oops, go back. So we've done some other things in California that hopefully can be replicated. Students at Cal State Long Beach asked me years ago, he called me up and said, do you know the people at the Long Beach Grand Prix? And I first corrected him, do you mean the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach? Let's get the name right. Yes, I know them. What are you looking for? Well, we'd like to do a parade lap at the Grand Prix. And I said, okay, I'll ask them. If they say yes, I'm going to talk them out of it. And they said, no, we want you to talk them into it. And I said, well, let's see, experimental vehicle, student drivers, concrete walls. I see a lot of risk on this and no reward. When you're on the track, people are in line either for beer or the restroom. They don't care. But I think, how many of you have been to the now the current name, Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach? Amazing event, and the Expo Center is stunning. It's as crowded as the Expo here. Tens of thousands of people going through on a 3-day event. The biggest motorsports event in the Western U.S. And so we gave them free display space, but not as a charity from the Grand Prix, but as a business partnership. We have 17 student groups in Southern California. The Long Beach Grand Prix Association gave us 17 different discount codes. It's now a competition. The schools that sell the most tickets get the display space. They earn it. Now we are a valued partner. And that's a template that could be done by any racetrack in the country to where, let's face it, you go to a lot of races, it looks like an AARP meeting. And we want a younger demographic, and SAE students can help with that. And so, it's something that, this is a template we've developed, we want to give it away. Another one that we've done, I've worked with Don, some of you may know Don Taylor and the Stand 21 Safety Foundation. We've been doing programs out there, here again, partnerships and collaborations. The workshops we've done in the past in Southern California, prior to my collaboration with Ian, we would attract about 100 or so students. Now we're getting well over 200. So the key on that is collaborating with great partners. And this is another one that, we're trying to help educate future race engineers on safety. Little shout out here, I did some work for SRO, and SRO, they hire, shouldn't say hire, they engage with SAE students as interns for the weekend doing tech inspection. I don't want to use the word hire because it's unpaid, but it's a free weekend at the racetrack to learn how tech inspections are run, network with schools, teams. It's a great learning opportunity for schools. So if there's any school that's near any of these racetracks, I can connect you with SRO. Another one we just done in Southern California on the racetrack thing that, we're not just car oriented. I love motorcycle racing. So we help promote speedway racing with our SAE student groups, and we have displays there as well. But it's all about helping to promote the sport. You tell students that if you want to be employed in this industry, the industry needs to survive and needs to grow, and you can help that. Example here of Garrett. Garrett gives away turbochargers. But, companies don't benefit from giving away free stuff, and students think that there's value in the sticker on their car. Sorry to tell you, there's no value in the sticker on your car. Your future value is huge. Garrett's not giving you a turbocharger for the sticker on the car because they think there's value in that. Garrett knows that you're going to be making multi-million-dollar decisions later in your industry life, and that you can bring a lot to the table. So companies like Garrett are a good example of ones who understand the long-term benefit of partnering with student groups. And then, if you need a neutral site, because one of the key things we've done is like the Lions Museum, the SEMA Garage are neutral sites. We've done some things in Southern California. The Toyota Museum used to be there and host us, but, the Honda people didn't necessarily want to support an event at the Toyota Museum or vice versa. So we found neutral sites. We've done some things with, I did some things with the Motorsports Hall of Fame when they were in Novi years ago. And I think virtually you can probably find a local car museum that would love to have increased traffic that you can help bring. How many of you have never been to an SAE competition? If any of these are near you, I've got flyers down below, go visit one. They are amazing. And here again, they're not meant to be public. It's for the industry to benefit. So there's 2 formula competitions, both in Michigan. They want to bring formula back to California, but we can't, since they tore down Auto Club Speedway, we kind of lost the venue of choice. Irwindale is going away, which is, here again, getting back to that thing, why we need the collaborations. And, students aren't going to solve all the problems in the industry, but they are certainly a way to help. And, just a few things we'll leave this one up. This is kind of one of the last slides Ian and I can talk about, but, the students need to understand, what they're looking for. Look for partners, not charity. There might be a company who can just write you a check because they're nice people, great. But understand their business. What are they doing? And the reality is, if you look at this show, there's very few products out here that will fit on a Formula SAE or a Baja SAE car. There might be some things on a $2,000 challenge car. And that's another event that's not SAE affiliated, but an amazing opportunity. Gracie Hackenberg started her career by building a $2,000 challenge car that showcased her talent, that now she's working for the McLaren IndyCar team. And so there's a lot of gateways to where you can do that. But you have to, when you're looking at these businesses, what do you offer? And the sticker on the car is not the most important thing. It's really the resume book. You're a talent pool that is very useful. But don't overpromise, and you gotta follow through. A lot of students never follow through. It's like they have a bad experience at the competition and they don't want to tell anyone about it. You need to talk about the failures. And, I can give you multiple examples of where students have shined more on talking about what they learned on the failure. And I can guarantee you a company would rather you learned a hard lesson on a student project that failed than at their company. So embrace what you learned from the failure. Hand off when you graduate. I would never bet against any group of students. You can capture magic for 1 year, but if you don't hand off, and I think Ian and I've seen it both, that you can go from a top 10 team to a bottom 10 team in 1 year, which is kind of a need to engage with the faculty advisor. So if you're a company, I would encourage you, make sure that don't just work with some brilliant students, make sure you're talking to the faculty. because that brilliant student may graduate and you're back to square one if the faculty's not engaged. You know, put it in writing what you want, what you expect from them. Understand and respect the school schedule. If you need support for an industry event you're doing, but that interferes with finals week or the competition, well, that's not going to happen. You know, you can't ask the students to, you know, compromise missing a final to support your event. You know, so it's just, you know, tagging in also to the SAE professional section. You know, Indiana has a great section. Part of the reason we're looking at focusing on Indianapolis, Charlotte, Atlanta, those are areas where there's very, very strong SAE section. I know we've got some students from Colorado. You know, there's not a whole lot of industry out there, so we got to figure out how we can find some companies in the Colorado that can help mentor you. But let's face it, the SAE Colorado section is very small. You know, so a lot of this, we have to figure out how to custom fit it to each individual opportunity. And then just the last thing, you know, we've got a very active YouTube page on SAE SoCal. So a lot of the things we've done at the SEMA Garage or other workshops, and we've had some great presenters. We had, you know, engineering of Hot Wheels cars, the toy cars, the engineering that goes into that. We've had presentation on the legendary Shadow Can-Am car from Pete Lyons. Great presentation. These, again, we're not advertising these to John Q. Public. We're kind of aiming at this as our core group. But take a look at these. And before we get into the discussion here, I'll leave this up. So if you want to reach out afterwards to Ian, myself, or Brandy is the point of contact at SAE headquarters. So if you'd like to get involved with one of the competitions for the industry side, Brandy is the point of person to talk to. With that, I've talked too much. So Ian, why don't you give your perspective on some of this?
No, that's perfect. Thank you, Dean. Dean said a lot of good things. I think that he highlights a lot of the benefits of the SAE program. One of the points that I think you hit perfectly is it's really for the industry, and I think sometimes, and in particular, the companies sometimes lose perspective that it really is a benefit of the industry that we're all operating in. The students that are coming out of these programs are they've had some of those hard lessons, and they had those hard lessons learned on a student project and not in our R&D facilities and costing us money. They're gaining the knowledge of critical problem-solving skills on hard parts for racing that they would have otherwise had to learn on a salary basis, but with a little bit of support from us as an industry to their programs while they're trying to build these cars for competition, they can gain that knowledge while they're still getting their degree. And it's a great opportunity for us as companies in the industry to help support these programs and these schools to bring them along and get them excited about coming into the industry. You kind of alluded to the genesis of the program that Dean and I developed for ETTN. When I was the chairman for ETTN, the whole idea of the student competition program was really just to build a conduit between the industry and these student competition teams. I had a personal experience that when I was with Formula SAE, I played both sides a little bit. I started with SAE, and then I kind of started to love off-roading and went to SAE Baja. But we were all in the same building, like a lot of teams. It's not like we have these wonderful. I know there are some schools that have incredible facilities. We were in an old World War II tank warehouse in Atlanta.
I've been to Georgia Tech. You've got a large facility compared to a lot of schools.
Yeah. It's gotten a lot better for sure. But you know, my experience was that I did it because I loved racing. I grew up racing, and I wanted to apply what I was learning in class and get some real-world hands-on experience towards a passion of mine, which was racing. However, I didn't really understand that there was an opportunity to take what I was doing outside of the classroom in our Formula SAE and SAE Baja teams and leverage that into the conversations that I was having with companies in the industry. I didn't know what SEMA was. I mean, you guys are far ahead of where I was. I didn't know what SEMA was until my internal combustion engines professor said, you should probably check this out. And I felt like that was such, and this was after I had graduated and had started my company, but I felt that was, in a lot of ways, a bit of a travesty that we really, at Georgia Tech, which is, we typically compete pretty well, it felt crazy to me that we didn't have a lot of engagement from a lot of aftermarket companies giving us support. The only real support that we had were from tier 1 suppliers. So my experience is that my option was either, and I hope there's not too many tier 1 suppliers in here, but you know, I thought if I wanted to be in the automotive industry, I had to design a door handle for the next 10 years in a cubicle. I really didn't realize that there were things as cool as the halls of PRI or the halls of SEMA. So the whole idea of the program was to give perspective to both industry companies and the schools that are having these awesome teams go out and compete. And that's really where we've kind of developed it. Now, the idea that the program had to encompass more than just a career fair, I don't think we ever thought that we wanted it to just be a career fair, because everybody that's here in college, I'm sure your schools put on career fairs all the time, and it's a jungle out there running around. And while the career fair aspect of the program in Diamond Bar and in Detroit is incredible, I think one of the true benefits of the program is that teams can bring their business prompt or their business presentation and their car and get real eyes on it and get real feedback, so they don't have that terrible experience of showing up 2,000 miles across the country and have their car miss tech.
Well, in the business, for those of you who aren't familiar, the competition is not just who can build the fastest race car. It's supposed to have a full business presentation, cost analysis. So the smartest teams recruit non-engineering majors. You know, you go back, my generation, our entire team was mechanical engineers. That is not a strength. You know, and the schools who can tap into the business department and graphics department, don't let the engineer do the graphics on the car, please. You know, and if they have a film school, you know, you've got people who can do video. There's a lot of other aspects, which is real life. You know, but we talk about, you know, the key thing this teaches the students to deliver a project on time, on budget, as a team. And that's what industry wants. And we do have to educate the industry a little bit on, ignore the fact that the GPA is not that good, because the dirty little secret is everyone who worked on a Formula Baja car damaged their GPA because they spent so much time on the car. But the smart companies would rather hire the 2.7 who talked about what they did on the car versus the 4.0 who never had a job, who just was brilliant but can't operate a screwdriver.
I was 2.9 when I graduated.
Yeah. So.
And it wasn't that before I started racing.
Yeah. But you know, that is something that companies have to understand, and we do struggle a little bit with the getting the HR departments to understand the value of this. The engineering managers get it. And you know, my generation, you'd have to spend half the interview explaining what SAE Baja was. Now, the person on the other side of the table usually knows exactly what it is and wants to know, what did you do on the car? It's not just a matter of you know, how the car performed.
Yeah, it's less of a team and almost more as a business.
Yeah, I mean, and the smart ones do it. I will give a shout out. How many Baja teams are here? Okay. How many Formula teams? Okay. The Baja team business presentations are generally better than the Formula car team presentations.
Burn.
And because the reality is, there are products that look like a SAE Baja car. Honda, Polaris, others make small single-seat dune buggies. No one's put a Formula SAE car into production because there is no business case for that. You know, and so, you know, I would encourage, if you have both teams, the Formula team should probably look to the Baja team for guidance on their business presentation.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity to cross-collaborate between the teams.
Yeah.
It's funny how siloed some of them are at some schools, but I think both of them could benefit from working together in a lot of ways.
But a lot of this, we did want to kind of open this up. You know, well, a couple of slides. You know, if anyone wants to ask questions or if there's some success stories here, I mean, I think Ian and I can both tell a lot of stories. I'm part of the SAE Industrial Lecture Program, so I've spoken at over 60 schools over the years.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch, there's like 30 different speakers that are available to any SAE student group. Mike O'Neill, how many schools have you spoken at? Okay, yeah, Mike O'Neill is a great one to come and talk, and he can give you direct design input. I'm no longer skilled to give you design input. I can give you input on your business, but not in the engineering.
I will make one last point before we completely open it up. There's a lot of strategic opportunity. You made a point that the sticker isn't that valuable.
Yeah.
It might be a digital receipt for the accounting department for said company to say that this is where some of the money went, but think outside the box how you could benefit some of these companies. A lot of the companies the companies that represent or are a part of the SEMA Association and PRI, the number is staggering. It's like 88% of those companies are 10 employees or less. These are small businesses. And those small businesses are trying to innovate and bring new technology and work towards making our industry better and racing better. So they're constantly trying to wear a bunch of different hats. I've had some success, and I know other companies, Garrett Turbochargers. We've done research with race teams, SAE, Formula SAE and SAE Baja. It might not be specifically on the vehicle, but I've worked with students that are a part of an SAE Baja or a Formula SAE team that were looking for a capstone project and wanted to do some research on something that I was working on in our business, and I was able to support their team through that. So don't think of it as just a sticker, and don't think of it as is one-dimensional. There's a lot of opportunities to bring value to these businesses, and if you can show that value, they will happily sign up every year if you can show them that.
On the stickers on the car, one of my pet peeves is schools who do a really lousy job of branding for the school. They turn it into 55 small stickers, and I can't figure out the school name. And so if someone takes a photo, I don't remember what school it was. And you're famous in your zip code. I always like to annoy the students from USC by walking up and ask if they're from Santa Clara or South Carolina. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I don't know. And if you're Bulldog Racing, okay, which one? You can look up, most of these school mascots are at multiple schools. Do not assume people know you outside of your area. Mm-hmm. And you go to these competitions, you need to get credit for the work. Do a step and repeat wall with all the stickers on it, and then just screaming big letters as big as possible on your car, the school name, the complete school name. Mm-hmm. You need to get credit. And that's how you do it. Yeah. You can put all the little sticker or the logos on your T-shirts, and send that out to the sponsors. There's a whole, we could go into a couple-hour discussion of how you need to treat your supporters, and trying to build them into business partners, not just patrons. Not just rich people. But if you can get someone to stroke a big check, more power to you. That's what every race driver is looking for as well. Yeah. But ultimately, there's a more sustainable business model by finding companies who you can provide value to. And are there any track promoters in the room? Good. I mean, because here again, let's have a one-on-one discussion. Every track can benefit from partnering with some of these student groups. They can help bring in consistent audiences, do alumni events there at certain track nights and things. But they are a way to have an educational angle that now you're not just a race venue, you're doing STEM education. And there's a lot of benefits to that for both the track promoter as well as the students. At Long Beach, we always tell them that everyone who walks through that expo is potentially one of three audiences: someone who can hire you, someone who can sponsor you, or if they have kids, a future team member. Bring information about the school, and not just the School of Engineering, but if you're Long Beach State, you've got 100 different majors. Mm-hmm. Bring information on the total school there and let them know that, hey, kid, you could be on a race team in a couple of years. And that's very powerful, and you score brownie points with the school then. So I'd like to hear some questions, or here again, Mike, do you want to say a few words about your experience? You've been, Come on up if you like. Or Kevin?
We'll put him up at the podium.
Okay, so I'll do it this way so you can hear me. I've been in design judging for, I think, 25 years in Formula SAE, and I did it as a student myself. I was on the team for 4 years. And Dean here is the one who got me into the chief design judge competition. But it's like, why do we have design judging? What's our purpose? And our purpose is to make sure that you're not just building cars, but you're engineering them and managing your projects properly. And the scoring of the design judging is moving more into it's starting to include items about project management, not just technical items, because without that proper project management, you're not going to come up with good solutions all the time. But we really drive you to come up with good reasons for everything that you do, looking at all different options that you can possibly address, and therefore, in the end, coming up with the best final solution.
Kevin? Kevin's one of the guys, he couldn't figure out if he wanted to be a race engineer or a race driver, so he did both. So I met Kevin when he was racing in touring cars in SRO a couple of years ago. So now he's in an interesting position. He works for Honda as an R&D engineer and races a BMW. So.
Yeah, that's right. And so I attended the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, did the Formula SAE program there. And as Dean mentioned, I think I wanted to be a driver first, but I didn't have a way to get into motorsport without finding a way to do it. And when I discovered engineering became my pathway. And initially I thought, well, I'll just become an engineer. I'll get in with a race team, and then they'll let me drive. And obviously that didn't work out, and never even came close. But as I was in school, I was able to start to learn all the other pathways that engineering kind of opened up. And for me, going the OE route and working with an R&D facility, there's so many different things that everything that is in the automotive industry has some input from engineering. And being able to learn what my skill sets were through SAE's formula program, and then kind of put those in practice day to day in my job, and then find a way kind of after hours to finally start connecting that into motorsport. And then now as a driver, again, it's everything that you do has some input from engineering. So there's all those little things that I've learned over the last 20 years has just opened up all those doors. So I think the thing that I wanted to build on that Dean mentioned earlier was, when I was on the Formula SAE team, it was just a team of engineers. And as Dean mentioned, our car wasn't designed very eloquently. The business proposal suffered quite a bit. And as I stayed connected with my university, I know they're kind of working together with their business majors now. And I think that's a really important thing to kind of consider, especially as you kind of move on from the university and go out into the real world, because that's the way it works. You have to work with all the other disciplines that make the business work. So that is your marketers, your business. You have to do all that, and they have to work together as a team. It's not just a team of engineers, but it's a team of the entire business that has to work together to be successful.
Okay, thank you. Grace, you want to say a few words about the $2,000 challenge? No? Tom Suttard, you want to come up for a couple of minutes? Because there is one for schools that are too small that maybe do a Formula or Baja program. There's a little bit of an alternative. If you're not familiar, the Grassroots $2,000 challenge is open to anybody. And it ranges from professional teams who have way too much talent and time to build these amazing cars to 4 guys with a case of beer and a car they built in the parking lot, and everything in between.
I didn't realize, I thought I was just coming to watch a friend speak. I didn't realize I was going to be at a podium here.
Well, I just thought I'd throw that out there because, I mean, here again, this is all about showcasing talent in front of companies who can benefit from that talent. And
So we do Grassroots Motorsports Magazine, and we hire FSE students too. But we host an event called the Grassroots Motorsports $2,000 Challenge every year. And basically, you have a $2,000 budget to buy, modify, design, whatever you want to do, a car that can win an autocross, a drag strip, or a drag race, and a concourse competition. So who does that attract? So it attracts crazy people who are locked in their garages over the winter. This isn't just for college students. But it also attracts a ton of engineering schools, including those with FSCE programs. Because, you know, FSC, or the Formula SAE program is really, really good at making people that can work for OEs and that sort of thing, that can design a car with a clean sheet of paper. Our event is really good at making those exact same people who can do it with a parts bin, which is more kind of what a lot of OEs are working with. So it's really, really cool to see these kids come together from these schools that maybe they don't have the resources for a proper Formula SAE program. Maybe they're using it as a funnel to develop entry-level engineers into SAE team members later. Or maybe they're just trying to have some fun and build a program. And it's really cool to see what they do by buying an old Miata or an old Civic or something like that, and then coming and winning a competition and getting a lot of the same benefits of going and competing in FSCE without all of the expense and the, I don't want to say red tape, but kind of all of the complexities that come with a real Formula SAE effort. And it's really cool to see those students then go on to either building SAE cars or going on to getting jobs in the industry, because, you know, they say, hey, I didn't just build a single seat race car with my entire school's engineering budget behind me. I built it from a parts bin crap in the junkyard. So it's really cool to see that ingenuity. I don't know, did I cover it?
Yeah, pretty much.
I didn't come with a speech.
I think that partly there's a potential for schools who are doing a Formula Baja. Don't do $2,000 challenge instead of, but in addition to, because I think the model out there is potentially if you have alums in the area, they could mentor first-year students, because you may have some first-year students who don't have the skill set to work on your Formula Baja car, but you want to give them some experience. And, you know, you want to keep your Formula Baja car pure with just true students working on it. But if you're doing a $2,000 challenge car where anybody can participate, you could have a local shop help mentoring, doing some of the skilled labor. When you see these cars, there are some of them you cannot believe you did that for $2,000, but the concourses, well, they have to prove it. And I think it's a really clever competition. And here again, anybody who's from the Southeast, you know, it's in Florida. So it's a relatively cheap tow if you're in that area.
Yeah, and you know, details are at 2000challenge.com. And as far as what do they build, we have teams that run 9-second quarter miles that beat new Corvettes in the autocross, and that look, I mean, as good as anything you get from CarMax, at least. I'm not going to say new car level on the Concours, but they're pretty shiny.
But who won the overall competition this last year? It wasn't a pro team.
No,
The pink truck?
Oh, that's right. Sorry. It's been a long show already. No, it was a body swap twin turbo Ford Taurus with a Ranger on top. That was it was a team of. Are they still in high school or are they in college now?
I think they just started college.
Okay, yeah, a team of college girls. It was incredible what they were able to build as teenagers.
And I was stunned to find out. I was disappointed to find out that none of them wanted to go into engineering.
No.
One wants to be a doctor, one wants to be a lawyer, and two haven't figured
and
it
that's
out yet.
one other thing I wanted to say, and I'll get off your podium soon, I promise. We hire Formula SAE students, and we've had some interns over the year. Also, I see Paris is in the audience right now. And they interview so much better than any other student with a perfect attendance and a 4.0 GPA and that sort of thing. It is so good to see to interview somebody that has actually been on a team and delivered a product and understands at least a little taste of the real world. So, I mean, those resumes always go right to the top of the pile no matter what. And we don't care that your grades are bad. Mine weren't perfect either, believe me. Oh, did I cover everything?
Yeah, I forgot Noah Stein. Noah, there's another success story from UC Irvine, now at Honda Racing Corporation. You want to say a few words about how you use Formula to launch your career?
We're doing good at that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dean. Hi, everyone. My name is Noah Stein. I am in IndyCar trackside support for Honda Racing. So that involves everything to do with the IndyCar series and the Indy 500 for Honda's engine program. So SAE was a huge part of why I'm here. I was in Formula SAE for 3 years at University of California, Irvine, from like 2019 to 2021, doing a lot of different roles in that. But the main thing was connecting with Dean and connecting with the SAE SoCal chapter. That was one of the best parts of it. Going to the SEMA show, I think 2019 that year. And the 2 competitions in Lincoln and in 2021 Las Vegas. Yeah.
Any advice for students?
Any advice? Take on as many roles as you can. Like try to get yourself a central role, but be willing to take on other responsibilities in other areas where needed. So I think the reason I got the job actually was, even though I was working more in simulations like lap time sims and like software side of things, I took on a challenge having to do with getting the car's electronic throttle control ready for competition. And just the challenge of going through and learning the software for that was something I could talk about on an interview. And it becomes really relevant when you're working on ECUs for Indy cars.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Derek, you want to come up and say a few words? Our favorite race Sherpa.
Thanks, Dean. Hello, group. So we're very fortunate to have been a past racer, known Dean for many years, but we actually now make our living from taking people behind the scenes at races and introducing people like Noah, this young lady over here. She doesn't know, but we point her out at IndyCar events. I wanted to tag along with what Dean said, but also what Ian said about having failures. Dean roped us into being one of the judges during the COVID time remotely for the electric side of things. A lot of presentations, a lot of schools. It was awesome to be involved. We really saw the teams that excelled and got, it's a competition, right? It's a competition for life, for your job, for basically everything. And racing, that's what we do. But the teams that really stood out the most were the ones that had recruited other people, be it the film, graphics, business side, whatever. Having a failure, some teams were a failure, but learn from it, right? It's like testing, it's like in racing. You get out there, you crash, you keep going. Like Ian said, that is the time to really, before you're in the corporate world or business world or own your own business or whichever, really get involved, encourage other people. But the other thing is don't forget, you're not just making a difference for yourself, you're making a difference for other people's lives, no matter where they go into, whether they go into grassroots magazine, publishing, media, or whatever. All those people can benefit from being involved. So really, I think that's great. I always didn't think about that. Bring out information on your school to any event you do, because it's not just you folks, it's everybody. The more involved, the better the team you're going to, the more the high performance team you're going to have.
So the funny failure story I can relate was there was a school, and this is in the late 80s, long time ago, pre-internet. There was a school who started building the car, and only after about 3 months of building the car did they make the decision whether it was going to be a Formula or a Baja car.
All right.
So they made it into a Baja car, and it was truly one of the worst Baja cars I've ever seen in my life.
Just a tire change, right?
So on the pace lap for the I don't know how it passed tech inspection. It did. Tech inspection was a little looser back then. On the pace lap, they went over the first jump. The suspension went to full droop, and the splines weren't long enough. And so now it's running downhill, and it had just inboard rear brakes. So now it goes down, endos, flips, sets off the fire extinguisher. We had to red flag the race on the pace lap. So 4 months later, the team captain presented a failure analysis report on everything they learned, and he won a $500 prize for that.
That's perfect.
And it was like, okay, we screwed up. How do we document that? What did we learn? And he went on to a great career.
If any company would tell you that if you were able to understand what you did wrong,
Yeah.
and walk away from it on how to do it differently, is just as valuable, if not more valuable,
Yeah.
than getting it right the first time. Because I don't know if I've ever gotten it right the first
Yeah,
time.
I know. So, I mean, here again, if your team, a lot of teams, we're so under budgeted. Don't worry about that. It's showcasing your talent, and there's no reason you can't win design. You might not win endurance, you might not win some of the other things, but you can, if you have good engineers, you can win design on a minimal budget. And, there's a lot of things to be said for that, and winning cost, winning business. You want to capture the attention, you won the cost analysis.
Yeah.
That's what companies need to care about to be profitable. So, any questions? Come on, students are too quiet.
If it's not maybe a direct question to us, I'd like to know why some of the schools and maybe some of the industry people, what you were interested in kind of finding out by coming and hanging out with us. But you've got a question here first.
I was just gonna ask, because our school, I'm from Purdue University, Indianapolis, so we're still a new campus, we're not new funding. So currently, we don't have an FSAE team, I don't think we can open one, because they won't give us money. Do you think that like, maybe like go-kart experience is way on the same level as FSAE experience? Because I'm currently on a team for an EV go-kart, so I don't know how companies would look at that, because like, I think you said there's like EV FSAE cars.
Well, I think there's so much recognition of Formula and Baja. If you're doing something else, you have that challenge of explaining what it is and what you learned. I'm not saying you can't, but you've added a hurdle there. I think that Baja is probably the most, of the two competitions of SAE, Baja is the more cost-effective program, so you might want to consider that.
But if you can't, I mean, if it's a new campus and they don't have budgets to give you money or anything else like that,
Yeah.
I would way rather do what you're doing right now than not do anything at
Yeah.
all. And if the only task is you comparing it to Formula EV or, not knowing particularly what the EV karting entails, but I mean, if there's a lot of the same elements of, having to, go through your budget and your design process, if there's a lot of that, a part of that program, the way that SAE is built for Formula and Baja, it's just as valuable. You just got to explain
Yeah,
it.
I guess the question is, are you designing it, or is this a turnkey kart that you're racing? I mean, the key thing with a lot of students is you are not in a motorsports program. You are in an engineering program that is wrapped around motorsports. Don't try to sell racing. Try to sell engineering education. It is a STEM project that, you can do things to gather attention and support because it's engineering education. The motorsports is just the fun aspect of it.
Yeah.
If you're trying to sell this as a motorsports thing, I think you're missing the point.
Yeah.
Personal opinion, so. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to back that up because I'm an advisor I was Baja advisor for 8 years, and I'm Formula Hybrid advisor for Milwaukee School of Engineering. And it's a smaller number of teams in Formula Hybrid, but it's extremely challenging both financially and technically. But we have won our competition on years when our car performed beautifully, and we have won our competition where our car did not drive at all. We were not able to get through, but a lot of the judging is based on your design, your project management. You mentioned project management, that's a big part of the Formula Hybrid, so we have to give a presentation on project management.
Yeah.
Things like, explain your change management system to us, okay? And how you do recruiting of various majors. So I think we have 6 or 7 different majors on our team. And the way we do that is a judged part of the competition. And my thing that I always tell our students is, it's nice if we show up with the best car, but year after year, I want to have the best team at the competition. That's the most important thing.
Well, I think it really helps if you have continuity of faculty advisors. I can't emphasize that enough. The schools that are consistently at the top have good faculty support. I'll pick on my advisor when I was in school many decades ago. He was not a car person. I finally asked him why he was our faculty advisor, and he said he was given 2 choices. He could be the department rep on the parking lot committee or the SAE faculty advisor. He goes, I thought you guys would be less paperwork. I was wrong. And so there are some schools who really struggle with that, which is why it's really important to find local industry support. That not every school has the benefit. Now, my old school, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, the faculty advisor there has Benetton F1 and Dan Gurney's All-American Racers on his resume. So a hardcore race engineer who's now a faculty advisor. That's a rare thing. But there are some schools that, why is Georgia Tech good? Because they've got good faculties. Why is Cornell, RIT, UT Arlington? Those are the schools that are always going to be consistent because they've got great faculty support. So.
We get some consistent sponsorship from companies that have no automotive connection whatsoever. They're interested, as you've been saying, they're interested in the engineering talent.
Yeah.
And they sponsor
Yeah.
because they want to get access to the
Yeah.
engineering talent. So for the teams who are here, look for
Yeah.
sponsorships beyond just people who are.
Well,
That reinforces what you said.
yeah.
It's not you're not selling racing.
No.
It's an engineering project that just happens to be wrapped around motorsports.
Yeah. Well, and you may decide you want to stay local and maybe take a career in biomedical engineering or aerospace, and then you can take all your money and buy a race car and go race with the guys over at NASA. So, you can still stay in racing regardless of what you do for a career. So when I worked for Nissan, I'd tell people either go to work for Nissan or go to work someplace else and buy a Nissan. I don't care. Either way helps me out, but you can still be involved in racing even if you can't find it where you want to live or the career path you choose. There's still a way to stay involved.
Absolutely.
What are things that you recommend for the teams that have a lot of freshmen and just don't have enough projects for them, ways to get them experience?
Mike wants to answer that? Or?
Yes, most of what you have to learn on these projects, you're not gonna learn in class anyway. Don't think that because you're a freshman, you're not gonna take any classes at school that's gonna teach you shop tuning or anything like that. You've gotta teach yourself. Get the books, go after it, dig in, and go.
Well,
It can be very valuable.
And if you have resources available to you to ask industry people to maybe mentor or guide you, some people have people that can help teach you some of those aspects. Don't hesitate to reach out and learn, and then take away from that when you're getting ready to graduate, make sure that you don't leave the next batch high and dry to learn it all over again.
So, Tom, you have something on that?
Yeah, so Georgia Tech, a fixture whenever they come to comp, at least when they come to our event, is they drive around in this like little remote controlled electric couch. And we finally were like, why do you guys go through all the time and hassle and expense of dragging around a giant like 4-seat couch with electric motors all over it? And they were like, well, we needed to give the freshmen a project to teach them basic engineering, to teach them how to make something that runs, and they're not likely to kill themselves on a couch.
So,
And for what, maybe $1,000 worth of motors and controllers, they were able to give the freshmen a nice little self-contained project that, again, probably wasn't going to kill them,
Well-
that they could then say, hey, we built this. And that gives them a heck of a head start towards engineering a car.
well, do you have any of your previous year cars intact? No. I think one of the tipping points for a lot of schools is when you can keep a previous year's car intact. Most schools have to cannibalize last year's car for this year's car. I understand that from an economic standpoint, but long-term, that's not good. Anyone ever familiar with UT Arlington's program? If you ever go to Dallas, look up Dr. Bob Woods, go visit UT Arlington. They have over 35 complete Formula SAE cars dating back to the 1980s. So if you had a car, let the first-year students rebuild a previous year's car. Build up a beauty thing that you can take around to high schools and junior highs and, be a showpiece. Something you can let sponsors drive. That's a way that you could, engage first-year students or have them build a $2,000 challenge car or a sofa that runs. I don't, but.
We didn't have the sofa when I was at Georgia Tech.
You missed out.
I missed out. I'm actually pretty upset about that.
Like you were saying, if you have a previous car, when I was in our Southern Poly FSAE program, we kept the previous car, and that's what we'd have all new people service to go autocrossing with the SCCA autocross.
Perfect. So, we have a question over here, I think.
I did. So I'm in an interesting spot. I work for a tier 1 supplier now, but I've gone back to get my master's, and I'd like to figure out a path to get into motorsports as a race engineer. Is there anything you guys can recommend? Should I get back involved with the formula program?
Yeah, I think if you can. What school?
Michigan Tech.
Okay. Yeah, they got a great program up there. Being on the team's good, but also, or just volunteer with a local race team. Find an SCCA or NASA club team that, it's not going to necessarily be a formula car, but, there's on club racing or, NHRA, wherever. Find a local club racer who could use your help.
Well, and not knowing your schedule, getting the degree, but obviously we have our event that's going to be taking place in Detroit. If you were to get involved, whether it be at any level with the FSAE team there or Baja team there, and then attending our event in Detroit, you're going to come into direct contact with a bunch of folks that are looking for that type of experience that are in the motorsports industry.
What about a high school junior who has an auto shop class, loves motorsports, but we really don't have any contacts? What advice would
Where do you live?
Northwest Indiana? Right.
Okay. Well, for high school kids, you could do the $2,000 challenge or figure out, start scouting out local colleges. Go over to Purdue. Figure out if you can,
Grades aren't always up to Purdue standards, but.
but here again, look around some of the local schools. You might be able to get involved. There's a lot of, I know some high school students are dual enrolled in a college, because SAE doesn't allow high school teams. For a variety of, I think liability reasons. SAE, our strong point is the collegiate design competitions. But I would say, consider some of these alternative competitions. Even if it's robotics, you're going to learn a lot of skills. There's things that are not directly car related, but there's other competitions you can look into.
I mean, is there anybody in that class with you that is also a fan of motorsports? I mean, the $2,000 challenge is. Yeah. I mean, you'd have to pitch it to your high school to help them fund it a little bit. But there's somebody over there that's proven it out quite well with Grace over there.
Yeah, and I did another one. A Michigan Tech student, Abby Hempy, was getting her master's degree at Michigan Tech and reached out to me during COVID and said, "Hey, I'm about to graduate," and she was fascinating to talk to because. Not only was she getting a master's degree in engineering, she also had a minor in art, and she danced and played the cello. It's like, wow, you're truly right and left-brained. And she ended up doing a BMW art car for the $2,000 challenge and got hired by Brandon Thomas, my contact at NASCAR, who, when we crowdfunded it posted on LinkedIn, Brandon didn't reach out to me and say, "Hey, what's up with this?" He just reached out to Abby and says, "If you're driving from Michigan Tech to Florida, come through Charlotte. I'll give you a tour of NASCAR R&D." She now works at NASCAR R&D. And so a lot of this is all about showcasing talent in front of people who can hire you. And a lot of this, there's crowdfunding opportunities on these, particularly these projects that are not that expensive. That you can crowdfund it, and you'll find local community will be more supportive than you might realize. So, another question over here?
This is a great seminar. This is a great discussion, and a great place to have it. I've been involved with SE for a very long time, a whole bunch of different roles. I was faculty advisor for like 5 different teams. Too, and Dean, you came to our university at one point too. This is the first year I've been at PRI where I haven't actually seen an SAE vehicle anywhere. Now, maybe there's one hiding somewhere that I haven't seen yet, but I was kind of disappointed in that, because every other year there would be a Formula car somewhere, a Baja car somewhere, somebody's doing it. So we've talked about it's a win-win situation for everybody to get the aftermarket racing industry involved with the SAE collegiate stuff and all of the opportunities there. And we talked about a lot of stuff. These are small businesses where you could use some of these students to do capstone research for subsidizing small business ideas. How do we get what you're kind of doing with the SEMA Garage thing here at PRI? How do we get that SAE collegiate display, whatever? We've got the whole aftermarket
Yeah.
racing
Yeah.
industry here. How do we get this stuff
Part of it,
to everybody?
great question. And a lot of it is, one of my frustrations is the way, I'm the biggest promoter of SAE, but I'm also a critic at times. And like, we have students who participate in Formula in Baja who leave thinking that SAE is a sanctioning by like the SCCA or IMSA or something. And
used to have a motorsports conference.
right, but the point is they missed the bigger picture and they failed to transfer to professional membership. Long term, we gotta make sure that everybody who, Noah, we need to tap you into joining the Indiana section board to where there's greater level of support on the local section level, because ultimately a lot of this stuff has to happen locally. And, we need to get the Indiana SAE section more engaged with PRI. And I think, Michael Good and Jim Lau and the PRI management is wants to do that. So I think you're going to see that. But what we need a lot is more of the people who succeeded in their career because of Formula Baja to remain engaged. I mean, I'm going to age out sooner than you will, but we need to have people to replace us and get involved and do this. I've been doing this for 40 years.
Yeah.
You know, and we need more people to get engaged with the section as a volunteer. And, you know, right now that's what it takes. And here again, we need to I think we need to figure out ways to better recognize and support the faculty advisors, because that's the continuity. Yeah. Because even if a student group a year ago had a car here, well, that student didn't pass on the contact of the company or whatever, and it all fell by the wayside. Yeah. So we really struggle. When you're a volunteer, you struggle with continuity because it's no one's job to make it happen.
Yeah. Building resources, like Dean's saying, for the faculty advisors and for the teams is something that, I mean, it's one of the main reasons that we created this project a few years ago. And what was the funniest part about it is it was brought to our attention that it was the first time that SAE and SEMA had ever officially collaborated on a project, which seems completely nuts to me. As far as an association standpoint, I think more and more people within the association, you know, Mike Good, Jim Lau, you know, Jim starting Formula Drift, you know, there's more people in these positions now from a motorsports background that recognize the benefit, and I think that the support is going to continue to be there. I really hope that there's at least a Formula SAE or SAE Baja car here. Yeah. There always has been. I know we did last year. We brought some schools to a few of our networking events. One of them is the Motorsports Parts and Manufacturing Council. That literally is a council that represents manufacturers of motorsports parts. And we had schools come in and bring the parts that they had made themselves, and everybody loved it because it really put on display what these kids are doing and how it relates to what these businesses are also doing. But I think you're going to see more and more support, even at the SEMA board level. You know, the chairman Kyle Fickler is a racer. Jim Law starting Formula Drift. Mike Spagnola has been an avid racer for a long time. You're going to continue to see more support for programs like this. I'd love to see a ton of cars here. I'd love to see a section here.
The challenge is communications. I love it. So how many students are from Indiana? We've got a couple. How many from Colorado? We got more students from Colorado than Indiana. So somehow, collectively, we failed to communicate, and or we were up against finals week or whatever. And that's some of the things about schedules. There's a group who wants to do an event at Monterey Car Week with Formula SAE, and it's like, okay, so you want to do something in summer when the students aren't available at the most expensive time, you know, where a Motel 6 in Monterey is $400 a night, 5-night minimum. Mm-hmm. This does not pencil out. And so we got to figure out things, but I think a lot of it, you know, my wish list is to get graduates from any of the Indiana schools to remain involved with the SAE Indiana section, to where we've got a constant communication.
It's the local.
The
local support. I mean, we worked very hard on our student competition program, the SAE SEMA program, and it was very successful in Southern California because we had Dean, and Dean is Dean to SAE. You know, he makes it happen. When we kicked it off in Detroit, and Detroit has a lot of industry companies, believe it or not, and a lot of schools with these teams, and it was a heavy lift. And it was very surprising because you thought we would have just had people flocking into this new, beautiful SEMA garage facility to get all of this free, you know, stuff. And it was tough because the local chapter isn't as robust or have themselves a dean.
Well, and you know, it gets down, when I talk to student groups, like, there's no doubt any of the students here, you are better prepared on a technical side than I ever was, or Ian was, even for that matter. Your communication skills stink. As a generation, I'll be point blank. I mean, it's like you guys just don't know how to communicate. And my generation, you had three choices. You knock on the door, you pick up the phone, or you mail a letter. Now there's, oh, I sent you something on, Slack. I'm not on Slack. It's like there's too many channels. And, trying to figure out how many of the students on social media, particularly during COVID, a lot of your social media channels went dead because the student graduated and never passed on the password. So I can find schools who have 5 different Facebook or Instagram pages that are all obsolete, and it looks like he went out of business. And so that's one of the challenges, is just communicating with it. I have tried, when I was working for SRO, I would reach out to a bunch of the schools, and it'd be like crickets trying to get a response. And, a lot of that is if there wasn't a good faculty advisor, I didn't know who to talk to. And so, it needs to be a collective effort on everybody's part. But, there's a lot of challenges just on the communication front to get the word out that there's an opportunity.
I think
Yeah.
we're running over on time just a little bit.
And I've got
but-
flyers up here if you want information. It's got contact information for if you'd like, any of the companies want to be sponsors of one of the competitions, or talk to Tom's still here in the room, or Paris. You want to talk about $2,000 challenge? Talk to them.
I'll hang out for a little bit.
I'll
and
hang
then
out for a little bit.
My booth is 212 if you want to swing by and talk more. I'll be
But
posted there.
if you want to be a trackside race engineer, talk to Noah or Gracie. If you want to just talk industry stuff or design judging, talk to Mike O'Neill or Kevin. So thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Give some good feedback if they want to do it again next year.